Welcome to the channel, everybody. In today's video, I'm going to put these 14 different snap-off blades to the test. So first we'll check the dimensions, the weight, the hardness. We'll check the grind under magnification, and then we'll check the sharpness of each blade. We'll do a couple quick test cuts on some paper just to make sure that the sharpness numbers make sense. Then we'll check for edge retention by forcing each blade through 12 feet of half-inch drywall and checking sharpness again. Then we're going to see how much force it takes to snap off a blade. We'll see if any of the blades are prone to chipping, bending, or breaking. And finally, we'll check for corrosion resistance. I have these blades organized by price per blade, and that's the order that we're going to test them today. I did purchase all of these with my own money. This video is not sponsored by any company. So with all of that said, let's get the show started. All right, so here's a little post-edit interjection into the beginning of the video. It is a longer video. It's not going to hurt my feelings, and I know you don't need my permission, but feel free to skip through or go all the way to the end and see the conclusions and all my data and my information and my recommendations. So enjoy the video. The least expensive blade we'll be testing today at just 57 cents per blade is made by Comalon. It's SK2 CR4 high carbon steel, and it's made in Korea. Next on the list is this Felikai brand at $12.99 for a 20 pack, or just 65 cents a piece. They're supposedly made of SK5 high carbon steel, made in China. And we've got this Masterforce brand at $4.47 for a 5-pack, or just 89 cents a piece, made of high carbon steel, made in the USA. Next is this BS brand, and I'm not BSing you. At 90 cents a blade, they claim to be high carbon tool steel, and the package says Japan and China. Next we have the Stanley 11325T at only 99 cents per blade, made of carbon steel in England. Next up is arguably one of the most popular blades in the world, the Olfa HB5B. Carbon tool steel, $1.57 per blade, and they are made in Japan. Here we have this Zoid brand at $7.99 for a 5-pack, or $1.60 each. They claim to be high carbon steel and made in China. Next we have this Rapid Edge brand at $8.99 for a 5-pack, or $1.80 each. These are the only blades in the lineup today with a serrated edge. Claim to be carbon steel and made in China. Here's another extremely popular Olfa blade, the HBB5B at $9.90 for a 5-pack, or $1.98 each. They come in a nice case, carbon steel, made in Japan. Here's the DeWalt brand at $6.22 for a 3-pack, or $2.07 per blade. There's no carry case, carbon steel, made in England. Here we have this Hyde brand at $2.10 per blade. The Amazon write-up said stainless steel, but it says SK5 right on the blade, made in China. All right, so I'm introducing these three all at the same time because we got some anomalies here. In order of price, we got the Fiskars Pro Carbon Max at $3.22 per blade. Then we've got the Stanley Fat Max Carbides at $5.26 a blade. Then this Fiskars Pro Carbon Max at $14.10 per blade. Yes, that is right. I paid $70.48 for this pack of 5 blades. So we'll talk about the Stanley Fat Max first. Now, I've never used these carbide snap-off blades, but I have used the carbide standard utility blades, and I have found that they chip really easy in comparison. They're carbon steel with a carbide hardened and tempered tip or edge. Now, I was confused when I ordered these, and I wasn't really sure what I was getting. It took me a little bit to figure out the difference, but here it is. This one is made in China, and this one is made in the USA. So I am very curious to see if there's any real difference between these two exact same versions of the Fiskars Pro Carbon Max blades. If these blades were out of the pack, I don't think I could tell the difference. All right, the USA made pack just ripped. On the right is the USA-made Fiskars Carbon Max. On the left is the China-made Carbon Max. So real quick before we continue, I wanted to take a quick second to show you some observations about the packaging. I've got them lined up here in order from least expensive, then up to the most expensive. So the 5 most expensive brands here have what I would call the crappiest packaging. There's no hard case at all. So these Olfas, those Olfas, the Stanleys, and several, 3 of the bottom 4 have the hard cases that come with them, which are really nice. Most of these have a decent amount of oil on the blade, and most of them look pretty good. I will say that the DeWalt, one of the, the 5th most expensive blade, right out of the package, it's got some corrosion on it, and even after cleaning them up with some mineral oil or mineral spirits and then acetone, they're still kind of cruddy looking. These ones didn't have a hard case, and there's some damage on the edges already, and we'll show you that under the microscope. We're gonna go length, width, thickness, and weight. So the Olfa blades are definitely the heaviest. That's one. All right, so done with all these measurements. There's not a whole lot to note here. So the Olfa Black, the Olfa Silver, and the DeWalt were the only ones that were actually a full 25 millimeters in width. Outside of that, pretty much everything else looks pretty normal and about the same across the board. Pretty confident. They're all either 0.71 or 0.70 millimeters. Okay, so now we're going to take a quick look at the edge of each blade. This is the Camelon. Doesn't look too bad. We got a little bit of deformation there. Clearly see two different bevels on this blade. The tip looks good. A little bit of weird grinding right there, I'd say. So here's the Felikai SK5 metal. Edge looks pretty good. Definitely has two bevels on it. Tip doesn't look too bad. Here's our Master Force, made in USA. Tip looks good, second bevel. Up next is the BS brand. Yep, I know. Have a little bit more pronounced of a second bevel on there. See the reflection? Tip looks nice. This is our first Stanley brand, the non-carbide blade. These do come in a hard case. Second bevel, everything looks good. Grind looks okay, no chipping, deformation. Next we got our Olfa Silvers, made in Japan. Tip looks good. These do come in a hard case. Very nice edge. It's very clean all the way around. Next is this Zoid brand. Tip looks good, edge looks okay, second bevel. Next is the only serrated one in the bunch, and until I ordered these on accident, I didn't even know they made these. We'll see how sharp they are, how long they hold an edge. It feels sharp. Tip looks good. So I don't really see a second bevel on here, maybe a little bit right there. Now we have the Olfa Black. Really nice looking. I'd have to say this is the best looking blade of the bunch. Very small second bevel on the tip there. These do come in a hard case, and I think it definitely helps to protect the blades during transit and storage. Next is the DeWalt. You can see it's kind of cruddy looking. I don't know, maybe these are just on a shelf somewhere for the last 8 years. Pretty pronounced second bevel. Grind looks okay from what I can tell. Lots of different little scratches here and there, but the tip is there. Appears to be an overall okay shape. Now onto these hides. SK5 steel. I'm not even sure I see a second bevel at all. Very straight grinds. Now we've got our made in China Fiskars Carbon Max Pro. Not really seeing a second bevel on this one either. Huh. The grind looks really nice. Very, very small and tight grind marks. But I don't see two grinding edges. All right, we're down to our two most expensive blades. We got the Stanley Fatmax Carbon. Or carbide, sorry about that. This one has a chipped blade, or a chipped tip on it. You can see that right there. A very pronounced second bevel. Grinding lines look nice and tight and smooth, not too bad. And you can see the carbide. The carbide, I think they said, is laser, well, I guess deposited, burned onto the edge, however you want to call it. Right. On to our last one, the $14.50 per blade Fiskars Carbon Max Pro, made in USA. You know, this one looks like it has a second bevel on it, the Made in USA version versus the China version. I mean, it's very small, but I think I see it right there. This one appears to have a little bit of something here on the edge up here, and this came out of the package that way. See that? Almost looks like rolling. I can just barely feel it. We're costing $14.50 a blade. I'm going to grab another blade and see if it looks any better. So here's the next one out of the pack. I did pull this one out and clean it. Looks like a little something right here. Some more goofiness up here. Something right there. I'm going to grab another one that I haven't touched out of the package yet. So here's the rest of the package. Let's just take a look at these stuck together. Yep, they all have a little something goofy on the edge here. Look at that. All that right there is on basically all of these. These are still stuck together from the factory with the oil and everything. See that right there? That edge right there. For $15 a blade, you'd think you could get it in a hard package where that can't happen. And And this packaging itself, instead of peeling off like every other one here, it just broke. This plastic just broke right off. So who knows, maybe this case is just really, really old. Okay, so now it's time for the sharpness test. I'll have a whole video on how I made this up. This is not the best certified version of it. I do have the clips that they use, but I got my own scale, made my own stand, made my own clip holder. I'm using a Cleco, which for those that haven't seen them, these are used for sheet metal work. Little spring-loaded doodads that really, really handy. I put my blade in the jig, use the Cleco to hold it in position, just like so. Now I'll throw a real quick photo here of the BESS, or whatever they call it, the testing diagram for this, showing how sharp things are. Like this double-edged safety razor should be around 50 on their scale. Okay, now my setup is different, my scale is different, so as long as I can get consistent results, we can do a fair test against these blades. I don't really care if it's exactly how they do it. I think it's called Edge On Up, BESS certified. So it doesn't really matter to me as long as my test results are consistent against each other. That's all that really matters. So here's this brand new double-edged safety razor. This one, we're gonna go nice and easy and see how much it takes to cut this test media with a double-edged safety razor. Super slow. If you go fast, I watched a couple videos, if you go fast, you can get a butter knife to get a super low score. Okay, so 15, that seemed really low, which my scale doesn't take measurements as fast as that Edge On Up scale or the BESS certified scale. They do like a measurement every, I don't know, was it a fifth of a second or something like that? It's something crazy. But this should get us the results that we're looking for, so I'm not too awfully worried about it. All right, so now let's go ahead and get our first blade installed, and this will be the Comalon. Okay, so now we're lined up between our marks here. Here we go. Keeping it centered is going to be the hard part. $163. Okay, swap out the blade, do it again. Here we go. I think I went a little fast on that one, but I'm gonna call it good. Next up is Master Force. 55. Next blade is the BS. There we go. Next blade is the full. Now check. Next up is the rim. This is our rim. It wasn't straight on, but now we got our full. Next is the 65. Nice. Here's the high. Fisker, made in China. Edge more than the other one. Right here. With the Walt carbide blade. Okay, it seems just a little bit. All right, let's see if this $14.50 blade is really that much better. Well, it's definitely not that much sharper, and we're going to test it again just to make sure. 214, 181. It's not that much better. Not when some of these are getting, you know, less than 100. So this is a hardness testing set that I picked up off of Amazon, made in Japan, so hopefully it's not too bad. All of these are supposedly high carbon tool steel or high carbon steel or SK5, Ulfa silver. 65 skates. That sure feels like it's skating to me. No real grab. Right on the very edge, it's probably rolling that edge over, but that Ulfa silver really, there's the hardest one I got, the 65, and it is not grabbing. It's scuffing up the finish a little bit, but you cannot feel anything. All right, so next I'm gonna do a real quick dummy check just to see how our sharpness testing panned out, see if it's remotely close. So this is the Comalon, the cheapest one. Seems like it cuts okay. Here's that Felikai. Not bad. Master Force. That one seems really sharp. We'll see how these, what I say here matches up to the numbers we got earlier. That's the BS. Seems pretty sharp. This is the Stanley. Seems like it ripped a little bit. Not bad. This is the Ulfa Silver. Seemed pretty sharp. Here's the Zoid. Seems pretty sharp. Here's the Rapid Edge. I don't know how this is going to do in the paper. I could feel it catching those serrations, but honestly it cut pretty good. Here's the Black Ulfa. I think that one very well might be the sharpest yet. The DeWalt. Not bad, not great. I actually see some paper stuck on here. Probably where those little deformations were on the edge. Here's the Hyde. Not bad. The Fiskars China. Not bad. The Stanley Carbide. It definitely does not seem as sharp. I'll show you that here. I'm going to do another one just in case. And that would match our results over there. I think the first one was 200 something. Yeah, it's definitely got some little funky marks on it. And the Fiskars US. This one wasn't all that sharp either, if I remember. Yep. It's kind of tearing too. So I think most of our numbers off of the sharpness tester are pretty darn close. All right, so now let me introduce you to the Blade Punisher 2000X. So what we got here is a double track system, and I rigged it up with some bearings, but basically this skid or sled can go back and forth, and it's pretty darn straight. It does not really want to move, and this should keep our blade in place. All right, so we got this mini vise down here, and the way this is going to work, this top section here, the segment, that will be lined up with this little plate here, and that plate allows for the blade to be permanently clamped at an angle for cutting. And I've run a couple test cuts, and it keeps that blade locked right in there, even though it's dragging through 1/2-inch drywall. All right, so our first blade should be the, Kamalon. And I'll do this first one by hand. There we go. I almost don't think 3 cuts is enough. If I do 4 1-inch cuts, plus 40, 56, that's more than 56 inches long. Yeah, we're gonna do 4 cuts per piece, per blade. So there's our first one. I'm just gonna show bits and pieces here for the next half hour, whatever it takes me to do this, and we'll pick up at the backside. Here's all our 14 blades. You know, I just got to looking at these 2 Fiskars again, but I have not been able to tell any difference. The markings look identical as far as I can tell. I seriously cannot see a difference in those 2 markings. I don't know, maybe I just got scammed. But anyway, I'm gonna get these things cleaned up for the next sharpness test, so I'll be back in a snap. All right, so here's sharpness testing after being forced through almost 16 feet of 1/2-inch drywall. I will put the before and after drywall sharpness right here up on the screen. All right, here's the Kamalon. Everything is lined up. Hold is on. 181, that's not bad. Next up is the Filikai. Here we go with the Master Force. I'm not entirely sure I believe that, but that's the second one. Next up is the BS. Now this thing. All right, now we got the Fiskars Pro Carbon Mat. All right, so I'm a little disappointed. I really thought that drywall test would do more damage to the blades. I've got a couple sheets of this 120 grit, it's emery cloth, and I'm gonna roll these up and then drag them under the blades with a whole bunch of weight on them. Master Force, Stanley, Rapid Edge, holy crap. Well, I gotta hand it to that Rapid Edge. That's pretty impressive. Olfa Black. And finally, the Fiskars Carbon Max made in USA. Cut better than most. Not as good as the Rapid Edge. Okay, now we're gonna get set back up for the sharpness test. Comalon is in the chute. Here we go. 453. Next up is the Felikai. Yep, Felikai. 337. That makes sense. Everything's looking like it's supposed to. I'm much happier with these results. This time we actually dulled them. Next up is the Master Force. BS blade on. Next up is our first. Yeah, this is definitely looking Wolfa Silk. Zoid. So far, I gotta say I'm pretty impressed. I'm not positioning it anywhere in particular. I'm not trying to get it in one of its grooves here. Okay, I'm gonna have to test this. Wow, 120. Can't complain about that. Wolfa Black. 40. I got the D-wall. I need to reposition it. It's slid justice. Got the high. All right, Fiskars China. Let's see if these expensive blades. I would say it. I'll test that one. All right, here we go. No black mark, centered up. 288, definitely held up better. 46, last one. Fiskars. Okay, $15 blade. Let's see what it can do. We're giving that one more. Don't think it's gonna matter. All right, so now we're in the brutality testing. So that's what I actually made this jig for. I wanted to be able to consistently drop the blades both horizontally and vertically. So vertically, I want to be able to drop the knife or the blade right on the tip on some concrete and see what happens to the tip. So it'll be a consistent test. The jig only goes up so high. We'll drop it twice from that height and see what the tip does. Then after that, we're going to turn the blade sideways, mount it in there, and I have it made so that just one segment sticks out. And we're gonna drop it and see how it snaps off. Is it gonna snap at the segment piece? I have found with these blades that if you drop it parallel with this segment, they usually pop off and snap off really easily. But if you try to smack it straight, a lot of times half of the blade, a chunk will fall off. So we'll see what it looks like here in a minute. Let's get going. All right, all the way up, drop. All the way up, drop. Let's take a look at it under the magnifying glass. This is our Comalon. It's not terrible. And I'm doing it with the scored part of the segment down. So that's how it should break off. So we'll go all the way up. Yep. It did not break off cleanly. That's the piece that broke off. That honestly might have been too high, but hey, that's gonna be the test. We'll see what happens to the rest of them. There's our two pieces of the Comalon. Here's the Felikai. That actually held up way better than I was expecting. That's kind of impressive. All the way up. The Felikai broke off properly. Name, BS. BS, 2 drops on concrete block. Tip looks pretty good. Full height. Wow, first drop didn't do it. Second drop didn't do it. Huh. Let's try like this. Well, It didn't want to break, but when it finally did, it broke off clean. I'll be dang. I can't believe how hard that was to break off. BS broke off clean after 4 failed attempts on the flat surface, and I had to shear it. Next up is Stanley. Two drops on concrete block with the Stanley. Tip doesn't look too bad. Tip break-off test with the Stanley. All right, so here they all are in their busted glory. And we've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that broke off abnormally. I'm gonna put up a little list here of the hardness of these, and that may explain some of that. I'm gonna give each one of them a chance to break off the way they're supposed to by stuffing them in the knife, going to its best break-off location. So for this one that's already broken clean here, I'll bring it out to this one to get a full segmented line. The Camelon can, but if it drops at a funky angle, it probably won't. Next clean break-off line is there. The Felikai works good. This is the Master Force. BS. Wow. Okay, so the BS is no BS. It does not like to snap off. Now we are on the Stanley. Stanley's kind of tough. Wolf of silver. Next segment. Good clean break. Zoid. Good break on the Zoid. Rapid edge. Good clean break on the rapid edge. Wolf of black. Same thing. We'll bump it to the next full segment. Good clean break there. DeWalt. I wonder if it feels at home in this knife. Hide. Good clean break on the hide. Fisker's China. Good clean break. Stanley Fat Max Carbide. Again, out to the next full segment. Good clean break. And the Fisker's Carbon Max USA. That was a good break. I like that. All right, so we're on our second to last test. And I rigged up this little doohickey here, some square stock, and I can put it over the blade, and then I can pull on this. And I'm gonna use the scale here. We're gonna see how much force it takes to break these off. And this should explain the last test, or at least help explain it a little bit. All right, break off force on the Camelon, 4.8. Okay, break off force on the Felikai, 3.08. Break off force for the Master Force, 4.98. BS break off force, 8.84. That makes sense. Stanley break off force, 6.6. And last, and at this point certainly least for its cost, Fisker's USA Carbon Max. Wow, 1.78 I think I saw. We'll give that one another go. Fisker's Carbon Max USA Take 2. 2.08. Okay, for our last test, we are going to use Project Farm's infamous highly corrosive solution of hydrogen peroxide, distilled white vinegar, and salt. I'm gonna go ahead and flip them over, do it again, and then let them sit here until tomorrow morning. I will spritz them again, and I'm gonna let them just rot in this stuff. Yeah, most of them have already started to rust. We will check on these tomorrow morning. Okay, it's been 12 hours. Probably don't really need to continue the test, but we'll go ahead and spray them down again and check it in another 12 hours. Okay, well it's been just over 36 hours. I'm gonna try to give you all a close-up of each one here. We'll just go right down the line. And if you think there's a winner or a loser here, feel free to throw something in the comments, but to me, they're all completely shot. I don't see any real difference, at least any measurable difference. And that's the last one there. It's the Fisker's USA. Okay, so now I'll try to give each one a quick little wipe down to see if anything changes. That actually cleaned up a lot better than I was expecting. Okay, so I gave everything a good wipe down, and surprisingly, they all cleaned up quite a bit better than I was expecting. I turned the good side down, bad side's up right now, and if I had to make a call, I would say the Zoid and the Kamalon did the worst, and probably the Rapid Edge did the best. Everything else I would say is absolutely too close to call. They all look really, really similar as far as the amount of actual rust that wouldn't come off, you know, with just light wiping. Not even light wiping, but heavy wiping. It just won't come off any more than it is right now. Now, most of the other sides actually cleaned up pretty good. Not bad at all. So we're just looking at what I would consider the bad side. And from what I can tell, the Rapid Edge here did the best as far as corrosion resistance overall. Like I said, I was really expecting the Ulfa Black, which I believe is this one. No, this is the Ulfa Black. And the other Ulfa, they actually look virtually identical. So I would have to say that the Rapid Edge came out on top for corrosion resistance. So after forcing the blades through 16 feet of drywall and running the blades over this emery cloth, I'm still just really not happy with the test results. They're kind of inconsistent, and I know there's a lot of variables that are hard to account for. So I think with the emery cloth testing, as the blade would slice through, it would go into different sections, and as it was slicing through, it was hitting different parts of the blade. So where I tested the blade for sharpness had a different amount of deformation every single time, because no two blades cut exactly the same. So I've taken out a new blade out of every pack other than the Masterforce, because I don't have any more, so we're gonna have to just omit that one from here on out. I'm gonna redo a sharpness test, get an initial sharpness test, and I'll actually be able to use that test against the original initial sharpness test. And then I'm gonna take each blade and run them over this aluminum pipe. I've got everything squared up as best as I can, and I'm just gonna let the weight push down. That way every one should be almost exactly the same, so I should get a very consistent drag across the entire leading edge of the blade. Now I did run this pipe through the lathe and cleaned up all of the corrosion, so it's fresh aluminum across the entire surface. Okay, so I fiddled with this thing a little bit, I made a few adjustments, and I decided that I wanted something a little more abrasive, so I got a chunk of 1/2-inch copper pipe, cleaned it up. We're doing 7 passes over the aluminum pipe and then 2 passes over the copper pipe. And the way I'm keeping track, just in case, I'm just keeping my marks right next to each other, so that way I don't have to rely on my brain to remember how many passes or what pass I'm on. Rapid Edge, serrated blade. This one I'm very interested to see what happens. That serrated blade by far put the deepest grooves in there. Right here. Yeah, about 9.5 pounds. I swear this copper has chipped every one of these blades. It's gonna be kind of hard to see, but there's a little silver spot. I swear, as soon as I start moving the blade on these, it chips. Yeah, I see a little chip there. Most of them have done that. Right where it grabs in. Well, I forgot to hit the record button. We're almost halfway through our testing here, sharpness testing. I'm on the Stanley standard, and I am not getting the results I thought I would. .1010. Now that one, I agree with. The first 3 so far, 287, 212, and then 103.8 from the BS. And I want to call BS, but I don't have any more test clips, so gotta do what you gotta do, right? Next is the Ulfa Silver. 1184. Okay, I'm hoping I can catch that same edge. It's right on that flat. 14.8, 88.8. Last test clip and last blade. Fiskars Carbon Max USA. 219.6. All right, so I'm gonna do one last ditch effort, sanity check. I'm gonna cut the paper again with these blades that just went over the aluminum pipe and the copper pipe. Some of the numbers just, they don't really seem right. You know, that the Camelon and the Felici, they did okay, you know, pretty good actually, but then that BS blade got a 103, 103.8 on the sharpness test, where the very next blade after that, the Stanley, got a 1010. Yeah, is there that much of a difference? Well, I don't have any more test clips. I've done all the tests I can do with the test clips. I went through over 100 of them. So we're just gonna do an old school sanity check. So here we go. This is the Camelon. A little bit of ripping. I'll do a couple cuts per blade. I have to say, it's not bad. Next up is the Felici. Again, not bad. Maybe it actually is that score. Couple little spots, but like I said, not bad. The BS, that's not bad at all. I'm going over the whole width of the blade, length of the blade. I think it actually might be a 103. Next we got the Stanley. Way at the top, it cuts, or at the bottom, sorry. It cuts, but then when you get to the middle, nope. It is really damaged. Yeah. I believe it. It's got a 103 or a 1010. So this is just a dummy check, you know. Next up is the Olfa. Yep, Olfa silver. Yep, took some major damage there. Just for comparison, I'm going to pull that BS blade back out. Yeah, the BS is definitely much sharper. All right, the Zoid. What score did it get? Zoid got a 632, and yeah, that kind of makes sense. Lots of tearing, but cutting better than some. Now here's the Rapid Edge. I was really impressed with the Rapid Edge overall so far. I think it probably took a ton of damage. Now in its test here, it got a 1488, the highest of the entire bunch after the pipes, but I have a feeling it's gonna do good here. Let's see. Yeah, those serrations. So when I tested it, I put it right on the top flat. And obviously those digging in the pipe took the bulk of the damage, and all the sharp edges are still buried in these serrations. And cutting paper or cardboard or anything else, that's kind of, you know, what you're cutting, or cutting with. Next is our Olfa Black. It took a lot of damage too. Even trying to force it, just, yeah, that makes sense with its number. It got a high number too, 1271. All right, now we got the DeWalt. It got a 559.8, so it shouldn't be too terrible. It still cuts, but yeah, it's certainly not super easy, super clean. And those aren't really clean cuts. Compared to the bottom of the blade right here, not terrible. Now the hide, I don't know if I believe this number. 110.5 is what the hide scored. Let's see. It's gliding right through it. I mean, that's how I'm holding it. I think I might have just caught an extra sharp edge. I don't think it's quite a 110, but it is definitely sharper than most. There's a couple spots where I can feel it grab and you can hear it in the mic. But not bad. Fiskars Carbon Max, China. That is actually still really sharp. Again, I'm just holding on to it with 2 fingers. Yeah, I gotta admit, Carbon Max is sharp. Stanley Fat Max Carbide. This one I think took a ton of damage, but we'll see. It did get, oh yeah, that the Fiskars China had a 158.6 sharpness. This one, the DeWalt, or the Stanley Carbide, 817.9. Yep. Now, if all you were cutting is cardboard all day long, this blade is probably the best. But anytime you hit anything hard, it will absolutely chip the blade, and that's what happened. Fiskars Carbon Max USA. This one got a 219.6, so it should be pretty sharp. It's not bad. Yeah, not bad at all. Do I think it's worth $14 a blade? Yep. Yeah, that actually did hold a really good edge. All right, so here we are at the end, and it's been quite a couple weeks putting this video together. I don't know how Project Farm does one video like this per week. This has been months of planning and at least 20 to 30 hours of video footage, and probably at least another 5 hours of collating all the information and making sense of it. So if you made it this far, hey, thanks for sticking with it, and we're gonna start going over the spreadsheets that I made. Two more quick things here. This is what I use for broken blades. Just take yourself any jar, pickle jar, mayonnaise jar, whatever, slice a little hole in the lid, and then that way you don't have blade fragments flying all over the place. And then when it's full, either dump it in your steel scrap or throw it in the trash, whatever works for you. The other thing right quick, the whole purpose of this video was to see if there was any difference in blades working in this particular knife, the AVE Skookum knife. And the thickest blades of the bunch are the Olfas, and they obviously fit great. I think the only real issue might be some of the thinner blades on the height, or what I called width during my testing, is when it's extended all the way out, you'll get a little bit more up-down play versus the tallest, or what I call widest blades, which the Olfas were 25.06 millimeters. But as you can see, it's not a lot of difference. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into the Excel spreadsheet and walk you through my results. Okay, so this is my first time using screen recording software. Hopefully it works out all right. When looking through all of this information and deciding what to give points to and what not to give points to is honestly a huge pain in the butt. And you'll just have to work with me here. If you disagree with some of it, hey, that's fine, but I'll explain what I got going on here. Price, I didn't put a number, points worth on price, just because I didn't think it really mattered right now. That's something we'll make a decision on later. Length, width, the width, 25 millimeter plus, I gave a half a point to. And thickness, they all fell right in at 0.071 to 0.70 millimeters. So no points there. Now weight, I did give half a point to weight because it's more steel, you know, and I feel that that's important. You're getting, and that you can see 3 of the 4 blades that made the 25 plus millimeter in height, or what I called width, they were also 3 of the heaviest. The Comlon was a outlier there. No points for hardness or break-off pounds of force. There was a couple that were too high, like the BS here, I think was too high. Same thing with the Stanley. I think the Fiskars USA was way too low. But pretty much everything else fell somewhere in the middle, reasonable. The break-off, I just put the green check marks and the red X's. Red X means that it did not break off cleanly, but that was on that crazy drop test. And, you know, I've seen blades break off funky before. When I did the testing by hand in the blade or in the knife, you know, the holder itself, the handle, everything did break off. There was a couple that didn't break off easily. The BS, I believe, was one of the worst. I had to really smack it to get it to break off, which makes sense looking at its break-off force here. Moving on to my sharpness tests. So just so that everybody can understand the sharpness tests here, I did one test to begin with on a brand new blade, and then I did another test on a separate brand new blade after I realized that the drywall test didn't really affect the blades that much. And if you look here, sharpness test 1 in this column, and then we move over to the sharpness after the drywall. So it went test 1, and then we did the drywall, and not much was all that different. You know, a 164 to 182, an 86 to a 220, 55 to a 120. You know, going down the list here, most of them didn't change that much. So I actually used that to my advantage and used both the first sharpness test with the second sharpness test with the sharpness after the drywall to come up with a new overall sharpness out of the box, I guess you could say. Not that one, sorry, this one here. This is our sharpness combined. So we've got the test 1, test 2 with a different blade, and then after the drywall test, this column here, I combined and got an average for all of those, and I gave this column the weight along with the combined out of the box sharpness. And I think that, I gave them each a point there for the sharpest blades in the bunch. And yeah, I think that's fair. If anything, we could get rid of this column, but they all did so similar. I gave the best blades an extra point here. So now looking a little bit further down the list here, I did do paper cut testing, and I realized that is extremely subjective. I looked at the first cut tests and then the second cut test multiple times, along with obviously being there, doing it, feeling it, and these are just the scores that I gave it. Now I've got 2 test columns or 2 point columns with my with and without the paper test because it is so subjective. Anyway, scooting back just a little bit here, I did a emery cloth cut. I took a chunk of emery cloth and rolled it up, and then I drug the blades over it, or actually I drug the emery cloth roll under the blade, and I decided that it will hold a little bit of weight, but only half a point worth, because each blade, by the time it drug across that area, each blade was at a different point going through the emery cloth by the time it made it to my testing area, which on every blade was exactly the same. It was about the 3rd segment in where each blade got tested. So as you drag the emery cloth under the blade would cut through the layers of the emery cloth, and it would be at a different point while it's cutting through at that point where I was testing. So I did give it some weight, but not very much, because I think it was just too inconsistent. Moving on, we've got the pipe test. Now the pipe test I think was much more consistent, but there was a lot of blades that I noticed a little chunk of the blade would break off in the copper pipe. And I think that may have skewed the results slightly. I did 7 swipes over the aluminum and then 2 swipes over the copper pipe. And in the copper pipe, each time I'd start dragging it and I'd hear and see a little chunk, a little silver piece instead of just copper color. So I think that even that test result is not all that consistent. However, I also gave them a half a point as well for the best sharpest, because there is a huge difference in some of these blades. So I did give them that benefit there. So we'll skip the paper test right now and just go to corrosion resistance. I only gave half a point to the Rapid Edge because it did by far better than the other blades. I didn't subtract any points. I didn't subtract any points from anything at all throughout all of the testing and all my scoring. Now the steel quality, this was something I kind of noticed when I went back through to check edges and other things, and I realized that the steel quality was incredibly different between the blades. And I'll throw a couple photos up here and you can see the difference. Holy cow, the Olfas look beautiful. I mean, the steel is so smooth and so consistent. I just figured it was fair to give them that extra point. The average ones, where are we at here? Oh yeah, steel quality. So the Olfas got a full point, and then the ones that say good got a half a point because they were okay. You know, the SK5 looked for the most part okay, and there was 2 blades that were SK5. I think it was the Hyde and the Felici. Might have been the BS. I think it was it was the Felici. They looked okay, but you could still see abnormal, you know, just little imperfections along the surface and the break lines, where they scored the blades for the break-off segments. It was not quite as crisp and clean. The Olfas are just beautiful from end to end, top to bottom, just gorgeous. The other 5 here that say good, they got half a point. The DeWalt, I probably should have taken a point from the DeWalt because it was just so ugly. The surface of it, I'll put a photo up here. The surface of it looked really cruddy and pitted looking almost, and almost like it was rusted and then sandblasted or something. Just really poor quality. And for being, you know, one of the 5th most expensive, it was kind of disappointing. So yeah, that's how those points panned out. The packaging, I thought about this for a little while, and we could take it out and the winners are still going to be the winners, but the Olfas are the 2 more expensive blades that do have them, but none of the top 5 expensive blades have a hard case that they come with. You can see the deformation on the leading edges of the Fiskars USA at $14 a blade. Same thing with the Stanley Carbides. There was chipped blades. Here's a quick picture of that. So that's pretty disappointing that the most expensive blades, you're not even getting a hard case. And you know, I've thrown just the plastic package in my little Acro bin and it just sits there. But man, having the cheap little hard plastic case to me is really nice. So I gave them an extra point for that. Not that it really mattered, because yeah, the 3 of the bottom 5 had hard cases. Only one of them actually made it in the top set or the top scores. That's the BS blade right there. So on to total points without the paper testing. The 2 Olfas come out on top. And you know, I didn't really, I was actually kind of disheartened at first because they weren't necessarily all that much better or all that much worse. And I really had to study this down and actually sift and sort through all of this stuff because I've always really liked the blades. And I just, you know, now maybe that made me a little bit biased in my scoring. I don't think so. So anyway, based on those points, not including our paper testing, our very subjective paper testing, I conclude that the Olfa Silver and the Olfa Black are the best. Looking at the sharpness, we'll back this up just a second here. And I just learned this recently too, the difference between the Olfa Silver and the Olfa Black. The Olfa Black is actually sharpened at a little bit thinner angle, but it's supposed to be sharper than the Olfa Silver. And that's exactly what our testing results show here. Here's the Olfa Black. And here's the Olfa Silver. This is just the best data to show that. We can even look combined sharpness after drywall. We've got the Olfa Silver and the Olfa Black. And the Olfa Black, taking into account all 3 sharpness tests I did. So the first new blade, second new blade, and then the first blade after going through drywall, which had a very negligible effect. I'm really shocked about that. But the Olfa Black came out on top by a fairly significant margin over every other blade, including the Olfa Silver. So that, you know, that to me holds a little bit more weight. The Olfa Blacks are very nice blades, but they are very sharp. Now the Olfa Silvers should be able to hold an edge a little bit longer because they're a little more blunt. You know, the Olfa Blacks would be a very sharp, you know, very thin edge, whereas the Olfa Silvers would be a little bit more shallow on their grinds. Either way, both blades are fantastic. When you look at the cut tests, the paper cut tests, that Olfa Black, it just glides right through the paper. So, all right, on to the paper tests. I had to change my scoring around and reverse everything because I did it initially on a 1 to 5 scale. And so like all these numbers here, a 4 would have been a 2, a 5 would have been a 1. In most of the blades, I gave a 1 or a 2, so that equates to a 4 or a 5 here, just to help in the scoring. Otherwise, I would have had to reverse numbers and this and that. So basically what I did is if it got a 4, I'd give it 2 points. 5, it got 2.5 points. And that's what got added to the far column over here. Well, got added to this column to achieve this column. All right, and then I added both the same for the after the pipe test. Well, the first initial paper cut test and then the after the pipe paper cut test. And same thing, I was actually really disappointed in the Olfas. They did not do that great here. They did take quite a bit of damage. Surprisingly, the Felici right here and the BS blades, they did really good. Now, and that's right here as well. You can see that the 212 and the 138 for sharpness after going through the pipes. The 6 passes across, or 7 passes across the aluminum pipe, 2 passes across the copper pipe. They did really well. I was really surprised. Here we've got, which blade is that? Oh, this is the BS, this is the Felikai. Down here we've got the Hyde, the DeWalt, the Hyde. Now I'm getting confused. Where are we at? So the Hyde, oh, the DeWalt's up here, sorry, the Hyde, and then the Fiskars China. They did good too, and so did the Fiskars USA. And, but it wasn't nearly enough to overcome the rest of the issues that were going on with those blades. But they still did come out pretty good overall, but still the Olfa, the 2 Olfas, actually, I'm sorry, the Olfa Black and the Olfa Silver did pretty good, but not quite as good as some of the other ones. Actually, oh yeah, this is the Rapid Edge. Let's talk real quick about the Rapid Edge. You know, that's this column here. I'll go the other way. The Rapid Edge did really well in all of the testing. It did good on corrosion resistance. I've never used one of these serrated snap-offs before, and I was shocked. You look on here when I do my the pipe test, sharpness after the pipe test, the Rapid Edge got by far the worst score on that. Now I made sure to cut on one of the flats, not one of the serrations, when I did the sharpness test after the pipes, and it was terrible, right? But that's not where a serrated blade usually cuts. When I did the paper test after that, you can see I gave it a 4 for the paper cut after the pipe. So it basically got the highest score it could get because it just slid right through the paper because it's hitting those serrations. I'm probably going to start using those a whole lot more. All right, so on to my final thoughts. I think these 2 Olfas here are the best overall blades you can get. They're just amazing. Everything about them, the steel quality, the grinds, the consistency, the sharpness, the corrosion resistance is about the same across all, but you know, we're not normally leaving these blades or knives, you know, in your truck bed or something. And even if you do, you wipe them down real quick and most of them are actually still sharp. I've got this whole pile right here and I could probably still use them. I'm not gonna, but I probably could. Just overall, I think they are the best blades on the table right now. I know there's other brands out there and I could potentially do another one of these showdowns later. I am really disappointed in these bottom 3 right here. Well, the 3 most expensive, they did average, I would say, at best. I mean, even the Fiskars US, you know, got a 1.5 when these other China pieces of junk are getting 2.5s and 3.5s. Not a 3.5, sorry about that. But they honestly, they did pretty poorly overall. I suppose if you were just cutting cardboard all day long and you were going to be cutting miles and miles and miles of cardboard, the carbide edge may be an advantage. I don't think so, but it might be. I know carbide is a lot stronger, but like I've said multiple times, the carbide chips. And these blades right here, brand new out of the package, were chipped already. They were small chips, I mean, very, very small, but if you know, drug a fingernail or something, they're there. And when I looked at them under magnification, they're there. Brand new blades and they're already chipped. Haven't cut even a piece of paper yet. So I don't think those are worth anybody's time or money. If anybody out there has a suggestion or thoughts on that, you know, is it really worth it? Are they really that great? I don't think so. You know, looking at my test results here, the Felikai and the BS both did better overall for way less than even a fraction of the cost. So that brings me to my final recommendations. Obviously, if you got the Olfas already, they're great. If you're investing into more, the BS and the Felikai, you can't go wrong with them. I mean, you really can't. For what you're getting, the Felikai, 65 cents and 90 cents a blade. So 65 for the Felikai, 90 cents for the BS. You can't go wrong with that. I mean, holy smokes. Now, $1.57 a blade and $1.80 a blade. Sorry, $1.09, call it $2 a blade for the blacks. If you do need something that's a little bit sharper, you know, the Olfa Black, again, you can't go wrong with, and it's just a superior blade overall. If you're just about cost effectiveness and getting a decent blade, Felikai and the BS If you're willing to spend a little bit extra, the Olfas are the best overall, and the Olfa Black is the best overall, even with the paper tests included. Now, one last time, I realize a lot of this is subjective. A lot of this is personal interpretation. My testing, I tried to make it as consistent and realistic as possible. I used as many jigs as possible to take as many human elements out of the equation as possible. You know, I don't have one of them $10,000 testing machines, and a lot of this is personal preference. You know, honestly, buying something because it looks good, like this Olfa Black, I think this is by far the best looking blade up here. There's nothing wrong with that, obviously. You can buy whatever you want, it's your money, right? So I really hope this helps everybody out there. I know I had a lot of fun, and there were some frustrating times too, but I really enjoy this kind of stuff. If you got any suggestions for this video or other videos, please throw something down in the comments. As usual, thanks for watching. Please hit them like and subscribe buttons. We'll see you on the next video.